Hi, Jim. Nice to have you join us on the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Wilson. It's really great to meet you. And, every day I'm excited to be alive. And I've been this way since I was a little kid. I just want to get up and go help people and get things done. And so today is an incredible day. So
Yeah, and I can see the energy as well. So, quick question. How old do you feel within? Let's put it that way. Yeah.
I'm turning 64 in like a couple weeks. I feel 23. That's 23 has been my magic number really my whole life. Even when I was younger, I felt old enough to go do things.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, when I was 23, I was like, this is perfect, perfect age. And then I have the energy of a younger person. My body's in really good health. I don't exercise enough, but I'm so busy and running around that I literally go to sleep. I sleep hard and then I wake up early and I let's go. So I think viewing life, my mindset
Mm.
is of a 23-year-old who's got some experience, some know-how, and goes, I'm going to conquer the world. And that's really pretty much how I've lived for the last 40 years.
That must be exciting,
It
right?
is
Even,
because
even we, yeah, just hearing you say it, I'm already excited, and I'm like, at 23, was I even thinking this way? Um, yeah, but no, good to have you. So you've had a remarkable career, right? When I was going through your profile, you started off as a nuclear engineer, and I think I'll say you've seen it all. So maybe if you can just how would you best introduce yourself? Let's put it that way, so that people can get to know you a bit more.
well, I would say that I was originally trained, as an 18, 19, 20-year-old as a nuclear engineer. And because I went to the US Naval Academy, I had to do 5 years of active duty. And I chose submarines because I didn't know how claustrophobic a submarine was, but I chose it because it looked cool. And then I spent my 5 years in 1985. It was a Cold War. It was us against the Russians. We didn't do anything. We never shot anything. We just followed Russian submarines all through the Atlantic Ocean, under the ice, near them, through the Mediterranean. We looked at, Tel Aviv. So it was very exciting times, but I was like, okay, I can't do this for my life. Now, believe it or not, Wilson, on the submarine, because it's no sunshine for 90 days, no fresh
Mm.
air for 90 days, and the good food lasts for about 2 of the 3 months. The last month is really bad food, including powdered eggs and spam, which I can't even see a spam can in the grocery store. I have to go around that whole aisle. Guess what I was reading?
Mm.
Motivational books. Napoleon
Interesting.
Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Still today, that was 40 years ago, and my one of my favorite books today, because it's ageless, is Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Because I learned on the submarine that it's the mindset. It's the mindset that the world is full of opportunity. And if you focus on the positive opportunities, yeah, I always say, excuse my French, shit happens. It's how you handle it. And if you stop and put all your attention on the barriers, you never go anywhere. But if you accept that life is going to, knock you down, look, I've had wars, partnership wars. I've had you name it. I mean, my life could be a drama. It's like, but I've survived because I didn't focus on the war. I focused on the peace afterward, and I kept
Interesting.
setting the goals and moving forward. And so the Navy taught me that you could take a hit and still live. Like when I was in the Navy, a lot of shit happened in the Navy. Things were like, wasn't fun. And but I learned that I could survive the stuff, the bad things. And then, but here I was now, 25 years old, 26 years old, going, I was working for the US government. I go, I hate my life. I hate to get out of bed. I don't, this is not fun. And so I said, I got to do something different. And a friend of mine said, come with me. And I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm a door-to-door salesman. I went, no, salesmen are liars. They're bad. Salesmen don't. And he goes, no, 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 no. And he was a good guy. And I said, okay, let me try it. But I can't lie. I can't cheat. I can't steal. And I'm going to treat everybody like it's my grandma. He goes, that's how I do it. I go, are you kidding me? Okay, so let me see this thing. And we were selling discount coupons for local dry cleaner. So you knock on a door and say, do you do dry cleaning? And they go, yes or no. They say no. You go, great. Have a nice day. Boom, next house. If
Yeah.
they say yes, you go, would you like to save some money? And they go, of course. I go, brrr, and I would just show the discount card. And I said, you get $105 for $30. And they go, oh, and how many can I have? And I said, you can't have more than two. So it's the whole takeaway thing. So I learned takeaway as a nuclear engineer because I hated my job. I made twice as much money, Wilson, going door to door as a salesman with 1 hour of training. I said, this isn't fair. I spent 7 years of my life training to be a nuclear engineer and then hated my job. Now I spend 1 hour learning how to sell. And I was like, I'm in shorts and a golf shirt, knocking on doors,
Think cool.
smiling at people. I was like, is life? I mean, is this? And I look at my friend, dude, I make $25 an hour as a nuclear engineer. I make $50 an hour door to door. How is this possible? He goes, that's life. There's
Yeah.
opportunities. So I quit my government job, Wilson. They thought I was crazy. My mom cried for a week. Oh, my
Oh,
nuclear engineer's son is, going door to door. And I said, Mom, I I have more money and it's fun and I help people. And there's where the key thing is, Wilson.
yeah.
Ray Lewis, he's a ex football player, but he said, I was just watching him and he said the same thing I say. He goes, you can't just wake up and go, I'm going to make lots of money. How about wake up and go, I'm going to help lots of people today.
Yeah.
And the more people you help, right, the more money you make.
Indeed, indeed. Wow.
Fundamental. That's a fundamental of my life. That is how I've been happy and successful for 40 years.
That is just remarkable. And you mentioned something, you were reading books on your mind,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Just expanding your mind. I feel that's something we lack these days. Everyone wants to just grow rich, right? And it's not bad you want to grow rich, but the question is, how do you even go about it? I, Personally, I feel it's a battle of the mind. If your mind is not able to comprehend something, there's every tendency you won't even get there. You have to win the battle first in your mind before your body starts reacting and going forward towards what you want.
Total
Yeah,
truth. Well, look at Napoleon Hill's title. Think and grow
and
rich.
grow rich. By the way, I have it behind. It's one of the books I want to absolutely read this year with my study group.
One of my top salesmen said, Jim, what book should I read next? I said, Think and Grow Rich. He goes, I've never read it. I said, dude, it's 100 years old, but
Mm.
read it. He he just tripled his sales.
Oh,
Okay, is it a coincidence? No, because he did it 2 weeks out of the four, where he had 3 times his highest ever. He's had his highest ever month after reading. It's not a coincidence.
I think it's a rich book. And by the time you definitely change your mind, things just start working. Now, this will lead me to the question on your book, Ended the War Between Salesmen and Customers. So what is this war about? Let's start with what is the war about?
Well, the book is right behind me, but it's on Amazon. But in 2011, I was invited to Russia. I wanted to go speak to consultants and sales managers and stuff, and I wanted to share my wins of growing a multi-million-dollar business. My first business, and within 2 years, I made $1 million. I was like, well, if I can do it, I'm a poor kid from Michigan. If I can do this, anybody can do this, right? Well, I go to Russia in 2011, and I'm talking to 100, call them crusty Russians, very serious. We don't like Americans, right? And the person, the organizer said, listen, they don't like Americans. I said, okay, so you're telling me it's going to be a tough crowd? She goes, yes, very tough.
Yeah.
Tough work. These people are experienced. They're successful. I said, okay. So I walked out on stage and I stared at him for a minute, 1 minute, a whole minute. I just looked at from one side to the other, staring at them because they were staring at me. They were like this, and I was
Who is
gone.
this?
And I'm staring at them, and then they start getting uncomfortable and they start shifting in their chairs. And then I had some Russian friends, and I said, "Ya очень rad видеть вас," which means I'm very happy to see you. They exploded into laughter because the fact that I tried to learn their language, and the first words I said were in Russian. It was my audience. Listen, I chased Russians all over the world, and I never caught any until today. And then they started laughing again. And a guy came up to me after my talk, He had a ponytail, kind of gray hair. He's a little bit older than me. And he goes, "My name is Captain Andrei Sizov. I was hunting you in 1985." He was a surface officer looking for the American submarines around
Oh,
Russia. He had a little book that he used for his, because he was a sales trainer and an executive leadership trainer. And he had a little book, I mean, very skinny, and it was 50 advices for a salesman. So he came to me a few years later after I met him and we were friends, and he said, "Will you co-author the book with me in English?" And then you got to be careful because you don't want to make an agreement then you're with a friend that you might have to break, because what if it's a bad book? And I said, "Can I see a rough translation of it first?" And he says, "Oh, yeah, yeah." So I get this. Now, this is a Russian naval officer. I'm an American naval officer. We're at two different continents, and we're supposed to hate each other. I'm reading the book. It's as if I wrote it. His thoughts, his thinking was the same exact as mine. I was flabbergasted. So anyway, I quickly, sat down and I said, "Well, these are just 50," because it was a little bit boring because advice one, blah, 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 blah. Advice two, blah, blah, blah. No stories. I said, "Dude, need stories." So I said, "Give me your best stories." And he's got great stories. And I had some stories. And so I put
yeah.
stories into the advices. And then we extended it to 60 advices, I think, or something like that, more, because I got with a financial securities guy who was one of the top salesmen in America for financial securities and insurance and stuff. And he's just a genius. So I took his additional 10 advices and I added into the book. And now the new book, which is on Amazon, basically the war is this, and you know this, right? You walk into a store and the salesman goes, "Can I help you?" And you go, "No, I don't need any help. I'm just looking." So the war between salesmen and customers is that 4,000-year-old war that's been going on ever since there was a marketplace. He's going to rip me off. Both people are saying this. The customer's going to try to rip me off, and the customer says the salesman's going to rip me off, and we get this war. It's just a
Yeah.
mental war. And this book's how do you take this antagonistic relationship and move it so that you and the customer are side by side looking at the problem the customer has and coming up with the best solution. And that's all the book is. It's very
That
simple
is
steps to
brilliant.
learn. Yeah.
That is
I mean, I think it's
brilliant
a very good
because
book. My employees have
yeah,
all read it. I use it on them so that it's tested, it's proven. And that's how we got that book. As a Russian and a Navy guy who were supposed to hate each other became best friends and actually thought exactly the same way. And we had, again, service the customer. The whole purpose of sales is not to convince somebody to buy something. It's
yeah,
like to find out, "Wilson, what do you really need? What do you really want? How can I
yeah.
help you the best? What problem is it you're trying to solve?" And I go, "Oh, I have a perfect solution. Let's look at this solution together." And so the war becomes, how do we handle the problem? And we
That
work
is
together as a team.
Yeah, that's a good perspective because even from the little sales I do, we're always tempted to just want to close the deal, right? That's what you have in your mind because they help your numbers. But being so empathetic to look at, okay, it's not just about closing the deal or updating the records. It's about solving someone's problem. Very few people can do that.
But the truth is, most people can do it, because I have a lot of
Mm,
friends who are entrepreneurs and they go, "I'm not a salesman." I go, "Everybody's a salesman. You started learning when you were 3 years old. Mama, can I have a candy? 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 Can I have a candy?" So children are natural salespeople. My two kids
hmm
were trying to close me and my wife all the time for what they wanted. And I was like, wow, this is true, because I'd read this, but then I had my own little kids and I was going, now they're bigger than me. But at the time, 20 years ago, they were little. And I say anybody can learn how to sell if you don't think you have to coerce
mm,
or pressure or have a war. I go, I read my book, and then I have entrepreneurs read the book and they go, "Well, that's not sales." I said, "Yeah, that is essentially the truth of sales." And they're like, "Well, I can do that. I just can't do the other thing." I go, "Well, I can't do the other thing either." I swore 40 years ago when I became a door-to-door salesman, 35 years ago, whatever it was, I said, "I'm never going to lie, cheat, or steal, and I'm going to treat people as if they're my family. And that way, like right now, we save businesses millions of dollars in our job. We broker better prices for electricity and natural gas in several states. When I look at my 25 years in this business, I go, wow, I've helped a lot of business owners. We've saved hundreds
Yeah.
of, I mean, over that time, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that a small business or medium business owner didn't have to pay. So
Yeah.
we love what we do. My guys love what we do. It's kind of a my company's very family oriented. We're always helping each other, and I may be the owner, but it's like, you guys, if you don't win, I don't win. So it's got to be
Yeah.
a win-win.
Win situation. Now, good. Rich experience. Now let's look at for you. You've had to actually move across different things, like you said, nuclear, and then became a salesperson. And the truth is, life happens, right? All of this wasn't entirely planned. And for a lot of people, that is the same thing they are going through. They're probably in the stage of their life where they have to make a change, but there's just that fear. There is that uncertainty, which I think everyone faces when you want to venture into something. But what will you tell them from your experience? Obviously, you mentioned something, you were not enjoying the job as a submarine engineer anymore, right?
Mhm.
But you could have stuck with that, right? And stayed there the rest of your life because you had a
25
degree
years, yeah,
in
I
that. Yeah.
could have done that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if someone is in that place right now where they have to make that decision, but they are uncertain, what would you say to them?
Well, I wouldn't recommend quitting immediately. If you have a job, you got to feed yourself or your family. Don't be irresponsible.
Yeah.
But I tell my guys, I said, you're only working 7.5, 8 hours a day for 5 days. That's only 40 hours. Do you know how much time you have? You have another 8 hours after work that you can study, plan, grow your mind, learn a new skill. Because, like I said, it took 7 years to become a nuclear engineer. It took 1 hour to become a salesman, but really my ability to communicate had been
Yeah.
practiced. I had enlisted people that worked for me, so I had to, sell them into doing their jobs correctly. So I was already, and then I was reading books like a madman. I was reading all these books, 25 or 30 books on sales mentality. And I don't know why I did, because I didn't really like salespeople. I said, well, these aren't salespeople. These are really good people. They're helping people. But it made me feel good to read it. So first of all, I think for anybody who's in a position like me where they hate their life, I mean, they hate their job, which kind of makes you hate your life. But
Yeah.
like it's a hard place to be. Instead of going home and then watching TV or sleeping or doing something, instead of sleeping 12 hours a day, you can get out. You can live on 6 hours. I have for 60 years, 6 hours a night. I sleep. And then I wake up because I can't sleep anymore. I'm like, I have too many things to do. So really, out of 24 hours, I have 18 hours of productive time, whether it's spending a lot of time with my wife, my kids, my friends, and doing things. And then also studying. My wife and I study together at night for at least an hour. So the key thing is, what is it? The question you got to ask yourself, what is it I like to do? Now, I didn't know I liked to sell until I did it. So sometimes you have to find out by mistake.
Yeah.
But you kind of know, you kind of know, okay, well, I like animals. Okay, well, you should work with animals. How can you do that? Well, go to school. I'm too old to go to school. Nah, you're never too old to go to school. I know people who've become doctors when they're 30, 40. You can do it. I have friends who've become naturopathic doctors and they're like 40 years old and they said, I want to help people. I like, health. And I'm going, I don't want to tell people what to take for their health. You get a good doctor.
Yeah.
And then,
Let the doctor do that.
yeah, I don't want to give any health advice. I want to give happiness advice. And happiness advice is, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, you need to take those 8 hours you have after work, or maybe it's six, maybe you got to go to bed 10. I don't know, whatever your bedtime is, but take those 6 hours and start investing in yourself. I'm launching a millionaires club because this is a true story. About 6 years ago, I was doing a little sales conference and stuff. And I said, that's it. You guys, it was like, I don't know, 200 people. I said, you're my friends. We need to be successful. If a poor kid from Michigan, can become a millionaire in 2 years, You guys can become millionaires too. And this guy in the crowd was with his wife, brand new baby. They didn't know what they were going to do. They had 6 different ideas. They weren't sure what they're going to do. And the guy said, Jim, I never thought I could be a millionaire until you told me I could be a millionaire.
Mhm.
And I was like, really? And then I went, well, neither did I. In fact, when I had my realization, and I think it was 1998, I was doing some training. I was doing some course, and I went, damn it, I'm tired of being in debt. I got to be a millionaire. And my wife's like, how are you going to do that? I don't know. I had no idea. I'm being
But you
honest.
just know it's going to happen.
But I decided, see, the
Yeah.
decision is so powerful that if you truly make a decision to change your life, a door will open. And for me, I got a job as a sales manager in an energy sales company. Now, it wasn't perfect, but first of all, I learned it really fast. I had to learn it. I studied, then I trained others to do it. And then I made the most money I ever made in my life as a sales manager. I was like, it wasn't $1 million, but it was like a couple $100,000. And, 25 years ago, that's a lot of money in America.
Yeah.
And so I was going, I got a new car. I'm debt free. Well, what do I do now? And then the door opened again so that I could have my own company. So I found an investor. I had learned everything about running this business at this other company. So I went and started another company. I didn't compete with that other guy. I just left him
Yeah.
alone. I went because there's a lot of people in the world.
Mm.
Even though we're only in part of the United States, there's millions of businesses. One company can't handle it all. So I've always ignored the competition and I worry about my own house. And so that training allowed me, with a little bit of investment money, to start a company in 1999, which I still have today. It's gone through name changes and partnership
Yeah.
changes and everything else, but I'm still sitting here with my employees and we're about to launch into the best year I've ever had right now. I mean, January was like, how you say, well, I want to get 10% growth. I doubled January, doubled December, which was 20% more than October. You can double your life. You can double
Mhm.
your life. Grant Cardone's a friend of mine. You can 10x your life.
Yeah.
10x. I love him. That guy's got more energy than everybody I know. He has more. He's a year
More
older
than
than
you,
me. Huh?
more
Well,
than you. Then we need
he
to meet
wanted to
him.
be a billionaire. See, his goal, he decided he's going to be a billionaire about 10 years ago. And I remember the day he did it. And so, and I was like, I'm actually, my kids were younger. I want this extra time instead of going out to sell people more. I said, my company's running. Let me just love my wife and children. And so I did. By choice. He chose to be a billionaire. I chose to just, millions is good for me. And I've had people say, Jim, I don't want to be a millionaire. I say, you don't have to be. See, the freedom of your life is you get to choose what you want to have, what you want to do, and what you want to be. But remember, you do have a choice. We can't say the government won't let me. Well, man, I've been through so many government changes. I don't care which government's in power. I have to survive.
But the point is clear, right? You mentioned something which is very pertinent. I happen to run a coaching program, and I do see people tell me that they don't have enough time. And then I ask them the question, what do you actually do with your 24 hours? In fact, one of our main activities is to go through a time audit. And then all of a sudden they realize that, wait, I actually have more time than I thought I did. And then you see that a lot of people spend their time on things that do not really move them to where they want to be. First, they are not even clear where they want to go. So they can make the most of the time. So, but if you have someone who is very clear on, for you, it was clear. I had to do something. I want to be a millionaire. I need to work towards it. And then obviously the time will come to work towards it. So thank you for sharing about that. The world is changing. Information is readily available. We have access to more people, even a bigger marketplace, right? Unlike when you started, where you had to go and knock on every door. Today, yeah, with technology, in fact, that's why we're having this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm in the UK. There's no way I was going to go over to the US to knock on your door and say, let's have this.
No,
So
man. Now you can reach
a
the
lot,
entire world. I mean, you can
Indeed.
reach with TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and everything,
Yeah.
you can reach the entire world. And if you have a product that's wanted by people around the world, you can sell it around the world. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing.
With these changes, I'm also sure you, within your organization, as technology evolves, the same way people need to evolve as well to make the best of that technology and still remain relevant. You've been relevant, or you're still relevant even after almost 40 years within your space. That is longevity. So the question is, what can people do? What should they focus on? Because technology will keep growing, right? It's not like it's going to get to its point and stop. So if people are truly scared of technology, there's something better that will come out the next month, the next day, right? So it's not about keeping the technology from growing because it will regardless. The
Awesome.
question is, what should they start doing? What should they look at? Do they position themselves so that even in a couple of years down the line, they're still very relevant?
Well, let me tell you, I'll give you my perfect example. Like I knew AI was coming, but what we do works. We call people at their business, which is harder. It's harder today than it was 25 years ago. We also have a really good YouTube channel for my company, so we get people that call us. I've had some Fortune 100 companies actually see our website and call us. So I'm getting some marketing reach, but it's business to business, and that's a little bit different than business to consumer. Well, a friend of mine, he's also business to business, but he's spent the last 4 months really studying AI and how it could help him in his business, and he's built an AI agent that does customer service better than anybody's ever done it because that AI has built on his 10 years of customer service problems and answers. He feed it into the computer until the computer knows every answer to every question. And my buddy just called, the Department of Motor Vehicles here, and he just called and he thought it was a real person at first, but then he could kind of tell it was an AI. It was the best answers. He said that was the best conversation I'd had with a DMV ever because he had all the answers. All the answers were put into the AI. Now remember, it's garbage in, garbage out.
Mhm.
So I would recommend, and what I'm doing now is I'm starting to use Chat GPT. My marketing guys use AI for our marketing already. So my marketing guys are ahead of me. But I'm going, I'm 64, but I have to learn. You can't quit learning. Learn if the key to this whole thing is willingness to learn something new. But remember, you don't eat an elephant in one bite. Hey, now AI is an elephant, man. That's an elephant.
Yeah.
Get a spoon and you just get one spoonful at a time. And it doesn't seem like it's going to work, but somehow it magically does. As you start to learn the basic things about it, you start building up, and pretty soon you ate the elephant. You don't even know when you
Mm.
did it. But you walk around now and people are talking about, yeah, blah, 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 blah. I'm building an agent. I'm doing this. And then people are going, how did you do that? And they think it's instantaneous. A friend of mine over the last 10 years built $1 billion business from the ground up. The first 6 years, it was just a handful of people and an idea that he kept promoting and putting in public relations and building with one salesman and just building. And then all of a sudden, the guy had 1,000 employees. But the graph looks like this. It's like eating you're one step at a time, and then it goes like that.
Yeah.
In 10 years, the first 6 or 7 doesn't look like he's going to survive. The last 4, he bought a house bigger than, anybody else in Clearwater. He's on the water. It's a mansion. It's like 2 acres of land. And he's the guy's older than me. So age has nothing to do with this. You're not too young. You're not too old. Are you willing to learn? And if you're willing to learn, then start reading. I mean, I have most of my books on my phone now. So all the books, including Think and Grow Rich, because I like to read it again. It's on my phone. I can read it on a plane. I can read it anywhere. For this reminds me, study. Learn how to ask Chat GPT questions or DeepSeek or whatever. Who cares what it's called? You got 47 different AI assistants now. Pick one.
Yeah.
Don't try to eat them all. Don't try to eat them all. Just pick the easiest one for you, the free one, whatever works, and learn and start asking questions. And because a lot of my content now is AI generated from what's needed and what we survey. You got to survey people. What do people need and want to hear? And then I take it and I like it. It's like, oh, wow, this is beautiful. But I change the language so it's me. It's
Yep.
100% me. But I do get some raw material from the AI. And then I go, that's a great idea. Good. Then I take my life and my experience and I tell the story. So I don't let AI write my stuff and put it out. I don't do that. I read everything that comes from my mouth or from my mind or from my name. I read everything.
Fantastic. So just having that learner's mindset where continuously you're upscaling, you're learning, you're relearning, because yeah, technology will always evolve. And there were some things you highlighted, people with, I would say, domain knowledge. And then when they see AI and these tools, they just use those tools to amplify what they know. And I think that's what people should actually focus on instead of
Yeah.
trying to just, oh my God, this is coming. What will happen to my job? What will happen to my, it's like, what are you solving? Use these tools to actually solve those things. Thank you so much, Jim. Usually
My
I try to
pleasure.
keep the conversation short. I know we can go on and on and on and on because you have so much to to dispense. But if people want to still connect, I'm sure after listening to this episode, a lot of people would like to connect and just say, and just learn from you. So where is the best way, or how is the best way to connect
I
with
would
you
say
and
go to my
what?
YouTube channel. Go to my YouTube channel because my website. I mean, it's really simple. Jim Mathers. So Jim with Jim Mathers all scrunched together. JimMathers.com is my website. I have a lot of things they can read if they want to read. A lot of just inspirational stories and things to think about. And then we also YouTube. The YouTube channels has a lot of short, literally 10-second videos, just for the thought for the day because it keeps people going. Okay, I'm not going to die, or I'm not going to. It's not too bad, or I can overcome this. Whatever bad thing we all have, bad things happen to us. So that's there. I mean, I would say YouTube and my website. It's pretty simple. The book, "Ending the War Between Salesmen and Customers," is on Amazon. Yeah.
Just before we go, I saw one of your shots, and maybe we'll end with this. It says, here are the 12. I'll just read that out. 12 best doctors. I think that was recently
Yeah.
natural remedies. You talked on sunshine, water, eating healthy, rest, fresh air, exercise, friends, gratitude, nature, purpose, calmness, and laughter. I saw it. I was like, wow, it was very short, right? So finally, um, these 12 best doctors, right? How do you think people can incorporate this into their day to day? Because it seems people know this stuff, but they just find it difficult to actually go ahead and add this in. Is there anything you can say to them to help them maybe incorporate this 12 simple but natural doctors into their lives?
I think that for me now, as I'm older and I need all 12 doctors. I use them all now. I don't think I did when I was younger. But for me, one, when I find things to be grateful for, and I'm always looking for things that are good around me. When I hear bad news from people, I go, yeah, okay, what? I just kind of I ignore the bad
Mm.
news. I don't spend time reading articles about bad things. I'm looking for the good things, and then I am grateful to those people. So I express my gratitude. I thank people for the things they give me, and I laugh a lot. I just find things to laugh about. So I mean, around me, like I just interviewed an engineer, and he says, "Well, I'm looking for a happy place to be," and he was a pretty. And then me and my partner were laughing, and he goes, "I think I found it." It's just from our interview because we were telling each other stories and we had a lot of good stories. And so I focus on the good stories. Sunshine is easy. Just walk outside. I mean, it's
Mm.
harder for you in England. I'm sorry. I've been to England several times, and every time it tried to rain. Uh, uh,
I know.
but you can at least go out in the clouds where there's sun coming through the cloud. I mean, the sun is up there. You just got to believe. And so exercise. I tell people all the time, and here's a simple piece of advice. If something bad happens to you or you get bad news, don't lay down on your couch or your
Mm.
bed or your chair. Get outside and walk and keep walking around the block or around the neighborhood until you feel better. You'll start to see things and you'll feel less crushed. Don't believe me. Don't take my word for it. Just try it one time. But I guarantee you, I do this with my employees all the time. If they get bad news on the phone or whatever, I say, go out and walk around the building. So they know me now. If they try to complain about how bad it is, I said, you need to go for a walk around the building. Come back when you feel better. And it's usually, 10, 15 minutes, I mean, if it's a really bad problem, it could be an hour.
Mm.
But I'd rather my guy walk around the building for an hour and come back in, oh, it's not that bad.
Mm.
And see, it's the simplest piece of advice I could give. It's very powerful. I learned it from someone else who was teaching this 50 years ago. So I'm like, take his advice, man. I did,
Yeah.
I do, and I still sometimes I go, I just need to go for a walk. And I go out and I walk around, I look at nature, I look at people. And for salespeople, it's really good, it's beneficial to go to a mall or a train station, and just look at people. And if you just keep doing this for a little while, you go, I found a nice old lady. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, well, that guy's not so bad either. And that person just smiled at me for no reason. See, then you're doing pretty good.
Thank you so
So
much, Jim.
try to do one at a
Yeah.
time, try to do whatever. But
Uh,
I really appreciate you. Thank you for inviting me, Wilson. It's great to meet you.
Same here. It's a pleasure having you. And thank you for just dispensing so much wisdom in one sitting, right? Yeah, I look forward to more connects on this, and I'm sure other people they look forward to it. So if you're listening to this, please go to Jim's page, follow his
Thank you
YouTube
very much.
channel. I'll share all the links, yeah, so that you can connect with his energy. Like, yeah,